Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to discuss about data science and semester paper solution. So let us begin. The first question and the first part of the first question is asking to distinguish between hypothesis driven and data driven paradigm in data science and provide an example of each. So let's begin with the hypothesis driven paradigm. It starts with a specific hypothesis or theory to test. The data-driven paradigm, it starts with a large dataset to explore the patterns. Approach of hypothesis-driven paradigm is that it follows a directed approach. Design experiments to validate or refuse the hypothesis. Whereas in data-driven paradigm, it follows a exploratory approach that analyzes the data for insights and a hypothesis. Data usage in hypothesis-driven paradigm is selective, that collects the targeted data for hypothesis, whereas in comprehensive, whereas the data usage is comprehensive in data-driven paradigm, which uses all the available data. Goal of the hypothesis-driven paradigm is to confirm or reject a prediction, whereas data-driven paradigm has the goal to discover relationships, clusters, anomalies. The strength of the hypothesis-driven paradigm is that it is more focused, efficient, causal inference. And data-driven paradigm strength is that it is unbiased, uncovers expected findings. Risk of using the hypothesis-driven paradigm is that it misses the alternative explanation, confirmation, or bias. The risk of using the data-driven paradigm is that it here the correlation value is not equal to the causation, or it may lead to overfitting. Let's move to the second part of the first question. Before that, let's first discuss about some of the common examples of each. For hypothesis-driven paradigm, suppose for predicting an IPC or BNS section, a lawyer assumes if marriage is less than 7 years plus one injury, then IPC 304B can be implied on the person. For consider another example of student performance where a teacher assumes a hypothesis that if attendance is less than 75%, then he may regard the students as fail, or he may only check attendance of the failed students. Data-driven paradigm. For data-driven paradigm, the first example of IPC BNS prediction example considers to feed all the 50,000 FIRs into the ML algorithm, and then the model can discover if dowry demand, the suicide note plus threatening calls with 7 years, then we can gain also inference that 97% chance of BNS 80. Similarly, the data-driven approach for a student performance example may consider by feeding 5,000 student records, and then model will discover a student who submits all the 3 video assignments pass with 93% probability even if attendance is less than 70%. It gives a totally new insight. Now, let's move to the B part of the first question. Differentiate between structured, unstructured, quantitative, and categorical data with suitable real-world example. So, structured data refers to data which is organized in fixed schema like tables or in the form of rows or columns. Unstructured data has no predefined format. It is a raw, varied type of data. Quantitative data is a type of numerical or measurable or countable values. Categorical data contains labels or categories, non-numeric descriptors. Examples of structured data include the SQL databases, spreadsheets, CRM records. Unstructured data has examples like email, images, videos, social media posts, etc. Quantitative data example is like age, height, sales figures, temperature. Categorical data example is like gender, color, city, name, product, categories. The next aspect is storage. Structured data is stored in a relational database management system or a data warehouse. Unstructured data are stored in data lakes, file systems, etc. Quantitative data can be stored in any structured format. It supports the math operation, etc. Categorical data, it is encoded one, like the one hot encoding is done in the databases, and it is stored in that manner. Analysis of structured data requires SQL queries, easy search, and aggregation. Unstructured data analysis require natural language processing, cross-validation, and requires pre-processing. Quantitative data analysis involves stats, regression, arithmetic. Categorical data analysis involves frequency counts, mod square tests, etc. The volume of structured data is about 20% of the data. The volume of unstructured data consists of 80% of the total data in a data set. Quantitative data can be structured or unstructured in a given database, whereas categorical data are often structured and qualitative. Now let's discuss some of the real world examples. For example, structured data is used in FIR Excel, in which we have columns with case ID, victim age, dowry, and section. In student example, we have a student table for structured database which contains column like roll number, attendance percentage, test 1 marks, test 2 marks, and test 3. An IPCBNS example example of an unstructured data may contain a scanned file, handwritten copy, or WhatsApp chat. And a student example may contain like video assignment files, lab observation, book scans for the structured data. Quantitative data in IPCBNS example may be like victim age, call duration, etc. Whereas a student example of quantitative data is like test marks in percentage or attendance, lab score, etc. IPCBNS example of categorical data may contain like relationship details and type of weapon used for the offense. And student example of categorical data may be like videos submitted in the form of yes or no or branch of that person or student. Let's move to the second question, part A. It asks to write an algorithm that uses Bayes theorem for decision making. So first of all, we will get some input, which is a set of hypotheses like H1, H2 up to Hn, and priors P of H1 for each hypothesis, likelihoods like P E by Hi for each hypothesis given the evidence is E. Steps to initialize the hypothesis and define all possible. Now let's move to the steps for performing this algorithm. First of all, we will initialize the hypothesis, which will define all possible decisions. Next, we will assign the prior, which sets the initial probabilities for each hypothesis. Then we collect the evidence, which observe the data features. Next, we will compute the marginal probability using the formula Pe is equal to summation of I is equal to 1 to n Pe by Hi into Phi. Then we will update the posterior using Bayes theorem by using the formula Phi by E is equal to Pe by Hi into Phi upon P of E. Decision rule. The decision rule will select the hypothesis with maximum posterior probability, and we will get an output in the form of decision plus posterior probability. Now the part B of the second question is asking to write any suitable algorithm for association rule mining that can print all the association rule. So we can use a general a priori algorithm for association rule mining, in which the step 1 is to generate frequent item sets by generating candidate one item set C1 and prune to obtain the frequent one item sets L1. Then we will follow the step 2, which will iteratively generate larger item sets for k is equal to 2, 3 until no more item sets can be found. Then within this step, we will have to candidate the generation, join the steps, and we will have to prune the steps, remove any candidates whose k-1 subsets are not all frequent. Then we can count the support and finally create the frequent item sets Lk and repeat this whole step until Lk becomes empty. And finally, we will follow the step 3, which will generate our final association rules, which involves generating all the non-empty subsets as of f and then compare confidence of the result. And finally, we will have to choose the best rule for the selection process. A common example of this algorithm is we have assume that minimum support is 5% and confidence is 80%. Then we can generate crime rules by taking conditions like dowry demand is equal to yes, marriage is less than 7 years, burns injury, then we can apply BNSAT. Further, for weapon is equal to country pistol and land and dispute type of offense, then we can use if these two conditions are true, then we can use the BNS 103 as a association rule. Another example is of student who like if video assignment is 1 is equal to yes and video 2 is equal to yes and video 3 is equal to yes, then we can give ansem marks as greater than equal to 70. And if test 1 is less than 12, quiz is average is less than 40, then ansem is less than 40 or fail as a result. Let's move. Before moving, it consists of an extra example. We can consider it. If you people want to check it out, you can watch this. But I am not explaining this one. Let's move to the next question. Question number 30 is asking to compute mean, median, mode, and standard deviation for a given small dataset, and we have to explain when each measure is appropriate and we should use it. So we have considered a small dataset containing the test 1 marks of 10 students, that is 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 12, 15, 18, 22, 28. The mean is calculated by the taking the sum of all the observation or all the marks divided by the total number of students. That will give us a 13.5, and it may be pulled down by the weak students, as the weak student marks are, there are more weak students in the group, so this value of mean is pulled down by this weak student. Further, median is equal to 12, which gives the real picture of the average student and is it not affected by the presence of more weak students or more strong students. Mode is calculated at 12 as it is the most occurring entity in our data set, and standard deviation is calculated as 7.2, and it discusses a high spread and teachers no batch is uneven, so it can be used also. So mean and mode are mostly not used for calculation as they may be affected by the presence of outliers, whereas standard deviation requires some quite large calculation and it is also dependent on mean, so it is also not used. The best way for calculation is median, which will give a better estimate of our dataset. Now, next question. Question number third, B part, is asking to differentiate between errors and artifacts in data cleaning, and we have to explain any two implementation techniques. So let's discuss the differences between the two. Errors refers to the things crashes or outages that occur during data acquisition. The origin of artifacts is the processing or transformation while we perform scaling or issues. Errors are generally impossible to recover and information is permanently lost. So we must be careful when error occurs in our program. Whereas artifacts are the systematic problems and they can be recovered easily. Impact on analysis creates true gaps or introduces biases or distortions in our program. Whereas handling of errors is by detect and flag drop affected records. We can handle the errors by detecting and flag drop the affected records. Whereas in case of artifacts, we can reverse the transformation or recalibrate to handle the artifacts. Let's discuss the two different kinds of uh, no. Let's discuss two different kinds of imputation techniques, that is mean imputation and k nearest neighbor imputation. The mean imputation fills the missing value with the arithmetic mean of the observed values in that feature, preserving the central tendency of the numerical data. So mean imputation refers to replacing the missing value with the mean of that data set. Whereas in the k nearest neighbor imputation identifies the k closest data points by using distance metrics like Euclidean or any other similar distance metric to replace the missing value, and it replaces with their average capturing local data patterns. It handles non-linear relationship and outliers better than the global averages, but requires more computation, especially for high dimensional or large data sets, and demands careful case selections. Thank you very much for listening. The remaining part I will discuss in the next video. Thank you.